Hello everybody, how's it going today? Glowplasma 231 here, back in day to talk about Tying of Knot from Amagami Sister, chapter number 189. This chapter is titled 189th Knot, Tying the Skies Together Collection. And man, this is such a good chapter, man. I don't know what else to say about it, just like hop into it. Like, I don't know, it's maybe one of these things where I literally just finished recording the chapter number 188 video, and I read the chapter and I'm like, I wasn't planning on making the next video right after it, but I'm like, I sort of have to after reading the chapter, as this chapter is the one that finishes off Yahei's story in the Amagami Sister series. We have seen her since the beginning. I mean, she's one of the three girls focused on in chapter 1, and I say that like there's more than the three girls. I mean, technically there's Mahiru, technically there's Shirahi, technically there's Uzuki, but we all knew none of them were ever going to matter, right? Of course, not as much as the main three girls do, and my second favorite always was Yahei, and to see her arc end like this in the moment, it's such a good chapter, man, but really just let's go ahead and hop into it. Of course, this is chapter number 189, Tile Collection. It's actually a little bit of a fun thing, being that the title of collection is at the very end of the chapter, of course, signifying what the whole collection, as we'll understand by the end of this chapter, really is. But last chapter in Tying Off in Amagami Sister, we had this random focus happening now all of a sudden on Yahei, right? As like we had the whole thing of like, hey, this is how all of the worlds are going to be brought together pretty much, and Uryu's going to make all of them happy in each of the various lives, right? And pretty much we just cut and open last chapter with Yahei's story pretty much happening in the moment, as it was this really nice thing of like her and Uryu going out to a dinner date pretty much, and Uryu being like, hey, I want to marry you pretty much, right? And of course, that's what this whole chapter is about, is the wedding finally occurring. And if I really have to guess, this is the sixth to last chapter of the series, so we're going to have the next two focus on Asahi, probably, being like that's how all the arcs were done, was like Yahei first, then Asahi, then Yuna, which Yuna's best girl, she should be last anyway, right? And the second best girl should be first. That means the middle is like just the mid-tier stuff, right? We'll probably have this chapter, the next two chapters focused on what is that character's name? Asi, and the last two on Yuna, all getting up to the point of their respective weddings, and then the final three chapters will just be like, hey, this has been a series, hope you all enjoyed it pretty much, or at least that's how I am going to be viewing it as happening. No, actually, wait a second. Next chapter will be 90, then 91, 92, 93, 94. I guess the final, the last chapter will be like the, hey, everything happened to get to this point pretty much, right? But yeah, this chapter starts off as we see the morning sun is coming through the windows at the Amagami Shrine, and is pretty much shining down on Yahei as she is fast asleep, of course, all of her painting supplies beside her. And we see that there's an unfinished painting on the wall pretty much, right? But of course, the sun glare objectifies it, so we can't really see what it is here in the moment, right? And really, the next big thing that happens is Uryu storming into the room, opening up the door like, damn it, Yahei! Like, how are you still asleep without a care in the world, right? As he even calls her Yahei-sensei, it's really funny, right? And he's like, hey, Yahei, like, have you even finished your art piece yet? Like, it has to be delivered today, or we won't make it in time, right? And she's like, oh, that much time has already passed? Like, rubbing her eye here in the moment, right? And she's like, hey, no need to worry. I'm sure I can still manage to get it done, pretty much. Typical Yahei, putting everything off till the very last minute, right? And Uryu's like, God, I really wonder about you. Like, I really wish that you take this job a bit more seriously, right? And it's like, hey, after all, we need that piece to display it in all of your other art in the chapel where we're going to be getting married, right? As you just see a lot of art pieces hanging on the wall in this chapel, all presumably ones done by Yahei, and by the end of the chapter we'll understand, like, yes, they're all done by Yahei. It comes full circle, I promise you, right? It's so good! Well, at this point, we now see that both Yahei and Uryu have made it over to said chapel where they are getting married. As we just see that she's like, man, like, look at all of the paintings lined up together, right? And Uryu's like, yeah, like, it really is a magnificent sight, isn't it, right? And of course, there's somebody else there in the background just being like, hey, you always did run everything down to the wire, Yahei. As we see, of course, it's Makoto standing here, and she's in a very nice formal attire. We see that she's also cut her hair very short as well. Really, like, it's sort of very much like Yahei, right? He's like, oh, Mako-chan, you're here pretty much, right? And Uryu just is like, hey, but she's only allowed to be so late and last minute for so many things, right? And he's like, hey, she's so last minute to everything because of how you treated her as a kid, pretty much, senpai, right? And we pretty much see that Makoto's like, hey, I didn't want to hear that from you, former Kohai. Like, hey, it seems like she's graduated by this point. It does make sense being how the series works, and like, she was, what, 3 years older than Uryu, and if Uryu's in middle school, was Makoto in medical school? I don't fully remember. I think she was, if I'm not mistaken. So even if it was like a 6-year program or something and Uryu's halfway through it, yeah, she'd be graduated by this point. Makes perfect sense, right? And Yahei just sort of brings up like, hey, it's the truth that both of you actually spoil me a fair amount, right? But eventually she just says like, hey, but that's what has very much let me live a very happy and fulfilling life, pretty much, right? She's like, hey, I love that aspect about both of you, pretty much. Like, hey, thank you for everything, Mako-chan, Uryu-kun, right? Of course, just paying her respects to these two, right? But of course, it's really funny as both Uryu and Makoto just like turn their heads around, being like, hey, you don't have to make that big of a deal of it. Like, that's what friends are for, right? And of course, Uryu's like, hey, I'm nice to you. I'm your husband. That's how these things work, pretty much, right? But either way, we eventually just see Uryu talk to Makoto, being like, hey, by the way, senpai, have you heard from Yahei's parents yet? Like, about them attending the wedding? And, oh, this is one of the weirder parts of this chapter, as Makoto just is like, oh, yeah, I did hear about that, but, like, I'm sorry, Yahei, but they actually said no. And Uryu's like, what are you talking about, right? It's like her parents, right? But either way, they pretty much, Makoto relays what they said, being like, hey, we disowned her, we have no right to participate in the ceremony, and that's what they said, pretty much, right? And he's like, why do they have to be so stubborn about all of that, right? As Makoto leans down on the ground saying like, hey, but instead of all of that, they actually gave me this box to give to you, Yahei, right? And you're like, wow, that's so big, right? Like, what is it, right? As pretty much, she says like, hey, it's a wedding gift from the master and the mistress. It's a tailored kimono to add to your bridal trowesu. Oh gosh, I feel like that's a very beautiful and nice moment that's completely ruined by me not knowing how to spell words. Alright, trousseau pronunciation, that's what I want. Trousseau. I don't think my computer picked that up, being I think I've got all my desktop audio muted, right? Trousseau, that's what it is. So, a custom tailored kimono to add to your bridal trousseau. Man, that's really neat, right? And of course, this goes ahead and lets us know, as we'll see later, like, it seems like in the end of the day, Yahei actually picked out the Western-style wedding for them to have. Of course, this wasn't held at the typical shrine. It was pretty obvious that's where it was going, but, like, here's sort of the full confirmation, right? But either way, Yahei is now just remembering, of course, her mother and all of those moments, and she was saying, like, hey, go ahead and find your own happiness. And of course, this does make Yahei sad. She just starts to break down and cry here in the moment, and seeing this moment of weakness in her, Uryu just walks around and just puts a hand on her shoulder and just says, like, hey, let's be happy together, Yahei. And she just, like, crying, like, yeah, and starts to, like, wipe her eyes here in the moment, right? As we see that Makoto just has a very nice smile, looking at the two of them being so happy together, forging their own lives. A life that she wouldn't have, that Yahei wouldn't have if she wouldn't have met Uryu all of that time ago. Really nice moment, right? But either way, they hang this painting on the wall, and Uryu's like, alright, look at that, everything's ready then. Now we just have to wait for our special day. Dun 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 dun. No, it's just when they're getting married, nothing more like, about it, right? But pretty much we just now see, we cut to that day in its full glory pretty much, as Yahei is in there sitting in her bridal gown pretty much, and from the mirror getting all of her hair and makeup and all that various stuff done. And she's just like, man, like, wow, I'm really getting married, aren't I, right? And she looks out the window, just says like, man, I really wonder how Asa-chan and Yu-chan are doing. Are they all out there being happy? As, of course, here in the moment in the back of the room, it's her wedding. Of course they'd be here, right? Yahei knew they'd be here too, right? But of course, Yahei's also talking to the ones in the other worlds, the ones that are actually getting married to Uryu and all that other various stuff, right? But we'll get that reference here in a moment. But of course, Yuna and Asi are there behind, just like, hey, Yahei, Yane, right? Just like saying like, hey, how's it going, right? And like, oh my gosh, what a wonderful dress you're having. And she's like, hey, it really suits you well. And they're like, hey, and eventually she's like, hey, thank you, Asi, thank you, Yuna, and thank you for all of your help here today. And they're like, hey, of course, like, thank you for leaving it to us, right? Like, we're happy to walk with you down the aisle, right? As we now see, as this sort of happens, they transition there to Yahei getting ready to walk down the aisle. And on each side of her, on her right side is Yuna, and on her left side is Asahi. As we just see in the church, of course, a loudspeaker just says like, "Hey, and now, if no further ado, we present the blushing bride." As we see that as this happens and as the doors start to open, we see that Asahi's like, "Hey, I mean, weddings are just so wonderful, aren't they?" And Yuna's like, "Yeah, I mean, they're probably the happiest day in a person's life." And Yahei is just like, "Yeah, no, you two are absolutely right." And Asahi's like, "Actually, speaking of, I had a dream the other night. I was actually having my own wedding with Uryu, actually, right?" And Yuna's like, "Oh, really? Like, I had one like that too, actually." Uryu was so flustered about getting ready for the ceremony and all of that various stuff, right? And she says, like, "I really don't think those were just, like, simple dreams. I think they're echoes of our other lives living in the other worlds. In other words, it's evidence that our heartfelt wish has actually come true." As Yuna just says, as Yahei just says, like, "Hey, I really do hope so. I'm glad to know that things are just as happy out there in those worlds." And as the doors fully open and they start to walk down the aisle, Asahi just says like, "Hey, and now it's your turn to be happy in this world, Yane." And they just starts to walk down the aisle, and she's like, "Yeah, I'll make it that way, right?" And as they're walking down, they get a good look at Uryu, and Uryu looks over to see Yahei and just her full magnificent look, pretty much, as we just see, like, hey, walking down the aisle, a full page spread of her in her wedding dress, with, of course, her two sisters holding her on each side, walking her down this aisle. And as they're walking down the aisle, we see in the background what all of these paintings actually are. As we see that whenever Uryu and Yahei were talking about, wow, they wanted their wedding to be in the first place, we see that she's like, hey, like the 3x3 exchange in a traditional Japanese wedding, the path the bride walks down the aisle is supposed to represent her past, present, and her future. And for my own aisle walk, I want to display pieces that represent the past, present, and future of our life, Uryu. And we just get a look at all, I'm getting goosebumps talking about this, man. And as we just get a look at what all of these paintings are, as just as like, hey, a painting of the day when you and I first met. Of course, at that point, the Reiko Ichijochi being dragged away by the hand from an unsuspecting Uryu, knowing what was about to happen. A painting of when I joined the Amagami family. The painting of all of them, the three of the sisters, receiving their cords from their mother. Paintings of when I was lost, and when I fell for you, Uryu. A painting for when our destinies were woven together that very day. Of course, a painting of the crossroads itself. Legitimately just a panel we all know and love, but it's still like, yeah, it's... I see what you're doing here, Marcy. I know you already drew that, and you didn't want to draw it again, right? But either way, as Yahei just says, like, and of course, a painting for when you and me became happy together. As we just get a really nice image of Uryu pulling back the veil on that Yahei is wearing around her head, and he leans in, and the two of them kiss each other. And we see, of course, this is drawn here, and there's a painting in the background that's this exact same scene happening here in the moment. As we just get a look at more paintings in the futures, Yahei just says, like, hey, and I'll keep freely painting my happiness into the years to come. As you just get one final image here of Uryu and Yahei both holding each other. Uryu's like a little like, oh, what's going on here, right? And in the background, both Yuna and Asahi are there throwing flowers up into the air, celebrating this marriage that has occurred here. As we just see a knot is tied on the page, of course, with the traditional chords we've seen throughout the entire series. As we get the chapter title, 189th Knot, Tying the Skies Together, Collection. Of course, the collection of images that we saw Yahei walking down the aisle with. This is such a nice chapter, man. It's so bittersweet to know that this is the end of Yahei's arc. And of course, she's going to appear in the other few chapters, like the other few quote-unquote roots. This isn't like how We Never Learn ended. It's a better ending than that series had, pretty much, right? But just the really nice moment of seeing how this was portrayed here, of course, bringing her key trait of like, hey, I'm an art student, and eventually seeing how she's evolved this over time. man, it's just so beautiful. Really, really good chapter, and yeah, God, I don't know what else to say. Like, I almost want to cry, but I don't cry. Like, it's just a good chapter, man, right? Again, there's a little bit of a weird thing in the beginning of the whole idea of, like, hey, your parents aren't actually coming to the wedding, and we actually didn't see Makoto at the wedding. Granted, we didn't really particularly need to. It was more about the two of them and not like, man, they're all the side characters in the background, pretty much, right? But sort of is what it is there. Gosh, this just made me realize, is Asahi's parent situation stuff going to be brought up in her route arc stuff? Like, I'm honestly so interested, right? Actually, let me go check what the next chapter is real quick. I'm not going to read it, but I'm going to take a look at the first page and tell if I can see what it is. Open it up, chapter number 190. That's definitely Asahi. All right, it's the Asahi route next. It's pretty much what I thought, right? Yeah, just a really good chapter to 189 here, finishing off Yahei's story, and just all of her character traits being the final one to get something done like it normally is, but of course, getting it done just in time and doing it exceptionally well. Just a great chapter and a very good end to Yahei's character. And with that, if you did enjoy this video, like you enjoyed the end of Yahei's character, at least how I hoped you did. Now, if you're a person that doesn't really like Yahei as a character, well, number one, you're wrong, and number two, maybe this video has changed your opinion. I don't know. It's the last time we'll probably see a big chapter focused on her, so I'm guessing not, but a guy can always wish, right? At least you don't hate Yuna. I know that's the case, right? But either way, if you guys did enjoy this video, I've got plenty of other Amagami Sister videos on the channel. I started covering this series, chapter number 176, which was the final chapter, or was the first chapter of the final arc, the Tying the Skies Together arc. So you can go check out that video there and all of the other chapters up to this point, and in the future, all of the chapters of the rest of the series, right? We are 3 days away from the final chapter coming out, the recording of this video. I've recorded 4 videos today. I don't think I'm getting out this video by the time that final chapter comes out, but alas, sort of is what it is there. But if you did enjoy it, that playlist will be linked down in the description box of this video along with the end card of this video as well. And yeah, my channel, Glowplasma, is there. You can go check it out, subscribe to it, let me know you're enjoying these videos, and maybe let me know if there's another series that you want me to start covering in a weekly shonen magazine. Like I said, we're 5 chapters out from this ending, and as much as I love covering Jump, I also do love covering Kodansha mangas. I think they are just as good, and most times, sometimes even better. Don't tell the Jump guys that, like, I pay them $3 a week, but maybe if Kodansha gets a better app, I'll do it more with them pretty much, right? But either way, hope you guys all enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you guys next time for Tying Knot for Amagami Sister, chapter number 190, the start of the Yahei quote-unquote route. And yeah, this was the end of Yahei's story, and a very nice one it was. I really liked in the final arc. We've gotten all these chapters focused on Yahei, especially the one about the planetarium, shining brighter than anything else. And then these chapters, it's been written very well. Thank you, Marcinado, for writing this series, and thank you, Yahei, for presenting a very great chapter to us. I'll catch you guys next time. This is Glowplasma, signing out. And hey, there's no Yuna joke that she's the best girl, because we know she is, but Yahei, I'll give it to you. For this chapter, you were. I'll catch you guys next time.